During the long history of blues music, certain guitars have become as iconic as the people who played them. Here are some of the most famous guitars in blues. B.B. King's Lucille isn't one guitar but several, and they're not all the same model. King used the name Lucille for any guitar that he happened to be playing at the time. Today we associate Lucille with the Gibson ES 355, but the original Lucille was a Gibson L30 archtop. One night early in his career, B.B. was performing at a dance hall in Arkansas that was being heated by a container of burning kerosene when two men started fighting and knocked it over. The building caught on fire and B.B. rushed back into the building to rescue his acoustic Gibson and almost perished. The fire killed two people. Later, King found out that the fight had happened over a woman named Lucille. B.B. gave the name to his guitar and subsequent guitars to remind him never to do something so foolish again. For a while, Lucille was even a Fender Telecaster. The ES 355s that we're familiar with today have no F-holes in order to cut back on feedback. Several of B.B.'s Lucilles can be seen at the B.B. King Museum in Indianola, Mississippi. The Gibson L1 held by Robert Johnson in his famous studio photo is the most notable guitar in early blues. Today the L1 is almost exclusively associated with Johnson. Nothing is known of what happened to the particular guitar in the photo, and it's not even clear if Johnson owned it. It may have been borrowed or a prop, and Johnson appears with a cheaper Kalamazoo KG-14 in a more informal photo. Albert King's guitar Lucy is actually a collection of several guitars much like Lucille, but there are far fewer of them. The original Lucy, named after Lucille Ball, was a 1958 Gibson Flying V. This guitar was stolen in the 1960s and Gibson sent him another Flying V. This replacement was used on the iconic Born Under a Bad Sign song and album. The original was eventually recovered and retired in 1974. Subsequent Lucys were Flying V-style guitars built by various individual luthiers. The original three Lucys are now owned by, you guessed it, Steven Seagal. Stevie Ray Vaughan's battered Fender Stratocaster, dubbed Number 1, was his go-to guitar. He also called it his first wife. He got the guitar from a Texas music store in 1974. Its previous owner, Christopher Cross, had traded it in for a Les Paul. The guitar is actually a mishmash of parts from different years. The body is from 1963, the neck is from 62, and the pickups are from the 50s. The bridge was replaced with a left-handed one to put the whammy bar on top, Hendrix style. After Stevie's death, the guitar went to his brother Jimmy Vaughan, and it occasionally goes on display in museums. Bo Diddley played many types of guitars throughout his career, but he's most well known for his signature rectangle guitars. In his early career, he built these instruments himself. But in 1958 he had Gretsch build him a custom instrument that he called Big B. He would feature this guitar prominently in his live shows before retiring it in the 1970s. His next guitar was a luthier-built instrument fitted with humbucking pickups and a Gibson-style neck that he called the Mean Machine. But his favorite incarnation was a guitar built in 1998 called the Bad Dude. The Bad Dude is held at the Musical Instruments Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. Other guitars can be seen at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Muddy Waters' main guitar for decades was a 1958 Telecaster he called the Hoss. Waters made modifications to the guitar, painting over its blonde finish with red, changing the neck, and replacing the bridge. He also switched out the original knobs with those from a Fender guitar amp. Today the Hoss is kept at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Buddy Guy's polka dot Fender Stratocaster has been a staple in his show since the early 90s. Before he left home to find fame, he told his mother he would come back to town driving a polka dot Cadillac. Years after his mother's death, he had Fender produce a polka dot Strat as a tribute to her. Fender also released a commercial version. Guy has several of these guitars. Some are high-end custom shop guitars and some are made in Mexico Strats. These guitars feature a soft V neck like that found on Clapton's signature Strats, and the more expensive ones in his collection have active electronics. Eric Clapton has sported several well-known guitars in his career. During his stint in Cream, he appeared with a 1964 Gibson SG called the Fool. The guitar was given a psychedelic paint job by a member of the Fool Artist Collective in 1967. It featured prominently on Cream's recordings after that point, and after the band's breakup, it eventually wound up in the hands of Todd Rundgren, who sold it at auction in 2000. The guitar is now owned by a private collector. The next famous Clapton guitar was Brownie. Clapton purchased the 1956 Stratocaster while still a member of Cream and used it extensively after he made the switch from Gibson's to Fenders. Brownie appeared on Clapton's first solo album and the Layla album. When Clapton sold it at auction in 1999, it became the most expensive guitar ever sold at the time, bringing in almost $500,000. That record was later broken by his longtime favorite guitar, Blackie. Blackie was assembled from the parts of 3 different 50s-era Strats that Clapton bought in 1970. Beginning in 1973, he used it almost constantly until retiring it in 1985. In 2004, it sold at auction for nearly $1 million. The winning bid was by Guitar Center. All of these iconic guitars made a huge impact on blues music in addition to other genres like rock and roll. If you believe that there are other guitars that should have been included here, feel free to post a comment. If you enjoyed this content, please consider supporting this channel through PayPal or Patreon, link below, and please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching.